Okay, hello guys, welcome to another video. This one's gonna be super casual. I have my dog right next to me, basically on my lap. The window's open and the birds are chirping. It's just so spur of the moment that I'm sitting down and filming this video. I'm always in a new spot too, right? So I wanted to come here and just sit down and chat with you guys about something that came to my mind very recently, and I feel like it could be a good reflection for a lot of different situations in everybody's life. So even though I feel kind of weird because I'm almost gonna sound like I'm complaining and I don't like to sound like I'm complaining, I think that overall the lesson in this will be really helpful to you guys. So if you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Aurora, formerly Courtney. If you're confused, go watch this video right here where I talk about my name change. And this is the Aurora Codes, a place where I help you discover your magic, reclaim your power, and live your higher purpose. If all that sounds like something you're interested in, definitely go ahead and click subscribe. So as you could probably guess by the way I come off on camera, I'm a very calm person. I'm very chill. It takes a lot to really get under my skin. I try to be as present and mindful as possible, so a lot of things don't really bother me. With a lot of different situations, I can always see the good, I can always see the positive, and if I can't, I can see how I'm at least growing from it. But there are certain things that just really irk me, and I've done a lot of thinking about this after I've had this epiphany, which we'll talk about in a second, and it's made me think a lot about myself and the way I interact with the world. So you're kind of confused, so let me tell you the story that kind of triggered all of this. I live in a little apartment complex, and I had been pretty close with my neighbors in the terms of us being in a group chat and all getting along very well. I need to have my environment very peaceful. So as you can tell, I'm a very peaceful person. So I strive to be very respectful. I don't want to cause any issues with people. I want us all to get along. In fact, every roommate I've ever had in college, we all became really great friends, if not best friends. So in my apartment complex, me and my neighbor next to me have been here the longest. So we've had our kind of like our parking spots this whole time. It's not assigned, but it's just kind of like everybody here has developed their own spot. I don't know, to me it's important that we all have our own spot because if anybody has guests, like we want to make sure that everybody can fit. So when we got these new neighbors, they never caught on to who parks where. And one day I came home and she was parked right in front of my apartment with the back doors of her car wide open, putting like baby stickers on her car. And I was like, all the spots are open. Why are you parking in front of my apartment, taking my spot? And there was trash all over my front lawn, and I was going to walk into my house. And I turned around to just look at what she was doing, and she gave me the dirtiest look. And I was like, what did I do? I was just like, this is frustrating. And I think that's kind of where it got to me because it almost felt like she was doing it on purpose when she gave me that dirty look. So ever since then, I just have felt really annoyed and like really irritated every time I come home and see that she's in my spot. Like, it doesn't matter, right? It's a parking spot. In the grand scheme of things, it's just like a tiny little thing, but I was just kept thinking to myself, like, why is this ultimately bothering me? And everybody can relate to this, right? Like little things that people do that you have no control over just can really start to irk you. So the other day, this little boy came up to my apartment with his dad, and I was about to go outside and be like, can I help you? Like, why are you literally right in front of my window? And the boy had a stick and was just smashing my bushes. You know, as a woman, you're kind of hyper aware of who's around and why are they lurking through my window and whatever. Once they left, I just sat down and was thinking, like, why are all of these things really bothering me so much lately? Just little things that don't matter in the grand scheme of life. Like, does it really matter if a little boy is coming up and playing in your yard? No. Does it really matter if somebody's parking in your spot? No. But is it frustrating? It can be. But we all have these things, right, that we all think differently. And when people aren't meeting our expectations for how we want them to act, we're ultimately setting ourselves up for failure because nobody thinks the same way as us. And when we're placing expectations on other people, they're never going to know what those are, and they're always not going to be met. Here's another example of something that just really got me one day. This wasn't a long time ago, but I think the woman behind me actually fosters dogs. And one day she had a trainer come here, and they were doing training in my front lawn when she has a front lawn, and there's like a huge lawn to the side of our building, and Snowy was just barking the whole time, and I had to go outside and be like, can you not do this like on my front yard, like go somewhere else? It just does bother me when people aren't thinking of other people, because personally, I'm always thinking about other people. I'm always thinking about how my actions are making them feel. I always want to be respectful of their space. That's a big thing, because it's important to me to be in a safe, peaceful, sacred space. So I'm very self-aware of how I act in those kinds of situations. So if this is resonating in any way, like if you're able to see yourself in my situation, if you're dealing with things, we all have to release expectations that we have for other people. We have to practice the art of letting go. So how do we do that? I think the best thing we can do is place these things on a scale of 1 to 10. So how annoyed are you? How in a grand scheme of things, how disturbed is your peace? So for me, when the parking situation was happening, it was like a 4. Like, I was annoyed. I think once like she rolled her eyes at me and just made like that weird face, I think my frustration went up to like a 6 or a 7, and that's why I was so triggered. I'm like, are you doing it on purpose? I don't know. When the little boy came up to my apartment and started smashing my bushes, I would say that was probably like a 4. Like, I was annoyed. I was kind of concerned that some man and his child were right up against my house. But ultimately, they weren't causing any harm, right? So I just let it slide. I breathed into it and let it go. If he had been like pulling up my flowers or was destroying my property, I would have gone outside and said something, because that would have been like a 7 or an 8. Like, I would have been pretty pissed. And I think there's this misconception that if you're spiritual, you are just always peaceful and let everything go. And like, obviously, we're human. We all have emotions and feelings, and we have to let them out. We have to process them. You know, we can't let people walk all over us just because we're spiritual, right? Like, that's treating yourself poorly. So if that would have been the case, in the nicest way possible, I would have went outside and been like, hey, so sorry to bother you. I see that you're playing, but could you please go play somewhere else? Like, I take a lot of pride in how my yard looks, and I just want to keep everything looking nice. And in fact, that's what I did when the training was happening outside. I had a towel on my head, and I was like, excuse me, can you please leave so my dog can stop barking? Can you do that somewhere else? So I think it's just about gauging your own emotions and knowing when you can let it go and when you need to say something. Now, if I had said something to the little boy and his dad, and they were like, no, I'm going to stay here, I'm going to play here, that's when you have to learn to settle into your heart, because this is something that happens a lot in the real world, right? Like, especially at like work, when you speak up for yourself and nothing's done. If you say your piece and people are like, well, screw you, I'm still going to do what I'm doing. You said what you could say, but ultimately there's nothing you can do, right? It's totally out of your control. And I think that's why this is something that tends to bother us so much, when these little minuscule things keep building and building and building. And it's just because it's out of our control. We want things to look how we want them to look. We want them to feel how we want them to feel. We want it to be, you know, our world essentially, but everybody's operating in their own world around us too. So not everything is going to be peaceful. Not everything is going to be how we want it to be, and we have to learn to let it go and to be okay with that. All of the stress and anxiety and frustration, all of that is living in your head. And what we want to do is bring it into our heart. Live from your heart space. And it's not that hard. All you have to do, like, I don't know if it sounds like so obscure when I say it, but all you have to do is breathe into your heart. Feel, envision, whatever word you want to use, this space radiating. You can radiate green or pink, and just feel it expanding. Take deep breaths into your chest and bring all your awareness there. When you do this, and when you operate from your heart center, you're able to have more compassion for other people. You're able to have more understanding for other people. You are able to just show up for people in a loving way, even if they're really irritating you. And once you are in your heart center, you're able to see people for the human that they are. You know, the little boy and his dad, they were probably just having a father-son day. A big thing is, like, if you're driving and somebody's speeding, like, you could humanize them, be like, they're in a rush, they're going somewhere, they're going to work, maybe somebody's dying in the hospital. Like, every single person is going through something. Every single person has a story. And I think it's important to humanize them when you're in a situation where you're heavily judging them for something that they're kind of doing. So another thing I wanted to point out is everything in our external reality is a reflection of what's going on internally. The things that are bothering you in your external world are things that are heightened in your internal world. So if I were extra annoyed about this little parking situation, which is so funny for that I keep saying, because if you keep saying it, you're like, wow, it's like such a minuscule little thing. But I'm telling you, like, it was bothering me. Not anymore, it's fine. But if I were to think about why is this really bothering me so much, aside from the expectations that I have on other people, if I thought about it long enough, I would come up with something. And it could be something like, how am I allowing people to disrespect my boundaries? You know, like a parking space is a boundary. It could represent my own boundaries internally. You know, like I'd have to meditate on it and think about it. But in reality, all of these things are just a mirror for what's going on inside of us. All these things that are causing a heightened emotion externally is showing us something about ourselves, and it's an opportunity to learn and to look within. So the little boy coming up to my house, if I were to think about it, he could represent my inner child. And the fact that the inner child was like hitting something that I think is beautiful, or actually it's not beautiful, but it's growing, right? Because it's spring. It was a bush that's dead, but it's growing to life, and he was hitting it. So it could represent my inner child self-sabotaging something that I'm trying to grow in my present moment. That's a good one. I'll have to meditate on that because that sounds about right. So I think it's all about coming into this higher perspective and looking at things through a different lens. I know this probably isn't the most insightful video, but it is important to show compassion and show love for people despite being frustrated and angry and whatever emotion you're experiencing right now. I probably will have to edit this video because I do feel like I rambled all over the place and it made no sense, but hopefully it did. Let me know in the comments anything that's going on with you, different things that are bothering you, and what reflection it could be showing you about your inner world. I would love to know. And if you're not already, definitely subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you join this community. We are on the road to reaching 100,000 subscribers. So if you want to share my channel, if you found this message to be really inspiring, hopefully you did, please go ahead and share it with somebody you think would like it. Share it on your socials. You can share it on your Instagram and I'll repost you. And it would just mean the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on Friday with a new video. Bye.